Alert. The patrol point is being...
Ah, there's a spy. Gotta keep that in mind. That was fat. That was so fat. Random crits are good, but everyone hates them and everyone keeps complaining about them to this day. It's like this groupthink. When the majority thinks something or some popular leaders state an opinion, then it's better to step in line and follow the mass, right? Sorry, but no, that is not my style, and I don't mind making the whole world my enemy if that's the consequence of speaking my opinion. The topic of random crits has been discussed to death, but I have only seen arguments against them. Big Joey, the one guy who explained why random crits are okay, came to the conclusion that he doesn't care either way. It's fine if random crits either get turned off or stay. Uncle Dane made the most publicly known video about it, and here are his pros and cons on the topic. Considering my opinion on the matter and seeing that there's nobody speaking out in favor of random crits, I knew what I had to do. So here are my thoughts on the topic. Without random crits, certain weapons would get significantly worse. The Holiday Punch has its place in casual. It is a useful tool to stop enemy Ubers in their tracks by hitting them in hopes of getting a random crit. With random crits turned off, you can force your Ubered enemies to laugh only when you strike them from behind. Good luck with that. The Scotsman Skull Cutter would become unusable. The only good thing that weapon has going for it is that it has random crits. The game mechanic that increases your random crit chance based on how much damage you dealt recently makes the Scotsman Skull Cutter viable in the first place, giving you the opportunity to snowball half of the enemy team, which is incredibly fun. With random crits turned off, the weapon makes you 15% slower for slightly increased damage, which is never worth it. If you have played with these two weapons, you know what I'm talking about. Some other weapons like the Vaccinator or the Battalion's Backup get weaker without random crits. Both weapons give immunity to random crits, which is an important stat, possibly their most important positive stat. Random crits give newer players a better chance at fighting tryhards. Newer players get destroyed most of the time by veteran players who developed a deep knowledge of the game. With random crits, these experienced players at least have a higher chance to get more occasional kills, which keeps them going instead of abandoning the game altogether. TF2's player base has very different skill levels, and random crits give less skilled players a chance to compete against more experienced players. I often heard the argument, random crits teach players bad habits. Tell that to the full Australian demo who has 8,000 hours in TF2 and spams choke points for hours and who enjoys it the most when enemy players disconnect from the server in frustration as a consequence of his spamming. Apart from this, the argument is a fallacy, because new players getting an occasional random crit will soon discover that they need to learn the game mechanics and develop game sense in order to become more successful at the game. They are goofy and original for a first-person shooter. TF2 is the only first-person shooter which has random crits. Most people will agree that they are really goofy and dumb. This goofiness and unpredictability is what gives TF2 part of its character. Combined with the myriad of weapon combinations and cosmetic loadouts, iconic characters and original voice lines and taunts, random crits are part of the game we all love. I get it, it's super annoying when you just walked half an hour from spawn to the front lines only to peek a wall and instantly receive a crit rocket to the face. Despite all your lamentations and complaining, the player who fired the crit rocket is probably laughing or at least smirking, and so are you when you just hit a fat crit rocket, crit pill or crit melee swing. Random crits can break stalemates. Taking out key players of the enemy team can sometimes only be achieved by a stroke of luck. In other words, getting a cheeky crit on them. That gives your team that's hiding in spawn, scared out of their mind, enough courage to step out of the spawn doors and actually try to turn an almost lost game around. Random crits are important for weapon balancing and class balancing. Earlier I talked about weapons that would have a shift in balancing as soon as random crits are removed. It doesn't end there. Melee weapons somewhat depend on random crits. Compared to other weapons, they have a higher chance to random crit by default. Furthermore, they are designed as a last resort. For example, when a sniper gets caught with his pants down, he can either roll over and die, or go for the melee random crit. More often than not, the sniper gets rewarded for it. With random crits disabled, it would be less enticing to go for it, especially when you go melee on a heavy. Removing random crits would shift the whole weapon balancing. For example, the Islander gets better when its only real downside becomes nullified. It would be taken to the level of all other melee weapons, because those also can't random crit, but still maintaining the huge upside of the weapon. This would make the Islander especially good, better than it already is, throwing off weapon balancing. Other weapons that get guaranteed crits, like the Backburner, the Diamond Bag or the Frontier Justice, suddenly become better with random crits disabled. Their downside is now on every other weapon, making them better in comparison. Not only weapon balancing becomes distorted, but also class balancing. If you have played Spy, you will know that one of the class's big disadvantage are random crit melee swings, especially from engineers. With random crits removed, Spy would get better as a class, because Spy would be a lot less likely to die. It is debatable whether that's a good thing, considering he can one-shot every class from behind and is a hard counter to NG and Heavy. Random crits add a certain thrill. Imagine, you are on a godlike kill streak. What are you most worried about? Spies and random crits. You can check your back every other second to be relatively safe of spies, but nothing can give you safety from a random crit, ruining your kill streak. This unpredictability and the threat of dying any second adds another layer of excitement to it. Same goes for Spy. With the backstab mechanic, you got an incredibly powerful tool, but you might die at any point to a free-to-player NG's crit swing, when he innocently wants to repair his dispenser. Unquestionably, you experience a dopamine rush, aka feeling good, when you get random crits. On the other hand, there's the silliness when you receive a random crit. If you fight a combo, in other words a medic healing a power class, the only thing that enables you to fight them all alone are random crits, assuming they are halfway competent. You can't always rely on your teammates, especially not in casual, so you have to take some fights alone. Random crits reward aggressive play. Fortune favors the bold. Random crits can reward players who take risks and charge into enemies despite being outnumbered, only to get lucky and get a random crit at the perfect timing. This adds an incentive for dynamic and engaging gameplay. I understand that it's stupid to engage 4 enemy players as a soldier, but with random crits you might get 2 crits in a row and kill them all. Why not go for it if you dealt a ton of damage recently, which heightens your chance of getting a random crit? With them turned off, that possibility is off the table and games become a lot less interesting in my opinion. Random crits are fair and balanced. Yes. People who say that never knew how right they were with that ironic statement. They are fair because they give Pablo Gonzalez 2014 a fighting chance against seasoned TF2 veterans who have sunk more than 7,000 hours into the game. On the other hand, random crits are fair because the experienced players also deal them a lot. The game mechanic that gives people who deal more damage a higher chance to random crit works in favor of good players. I understand that it must be nice to stomp a pub, being pocketed by a crits medic who only heals you, and not worry about pretty much anything, except the spy. To give free-to-players at least a fighting chance, random crits need to stay. And they will. Valve is never going to change the game mechanic anymore, with the one developer who occasionally works on TF2. Valve doesn't even mess around with weapon balancing anymore. The last change in that regard was in 2017, which is long ago in gaming years. So, random crits are here to stay. If you complain about them, ask yourself how many players you killed with random crits in the last round so far. Sure, it's bullshit, but it's fun. Just watch any YouTuber killing a bunch with random crits, and most of the time they are overly excited and happy about it. When a player dies to a crit rocket from across the map, it's very dumb and undeserved, sure, but one should remember all the times when they killed with random crits, instead of only remembering the instances where they died to them. In a more competitive environment, it makes sense to not have random crits and random bullet spread. But TF2 competitive is a small niche compared to the vast majority of players playing casual. If it's tryhard versus tryhard, as in Angletopia, random crits turned off are okay. But a casual, we need random crits. By the way, don't get me wrong, I consider myself a tryhard too, because I try to win at my hardest. Not every time though, often I just do silly stuff with weird loadouts, not that set on winning. Random crits. When you get them yourself, they create memorable and enjoyable moments. When you are on the receiving end, just laugh it off. Random crits are not going to go away, unless you play competitive or community servers where they are disabled. I have gotten so used to random crits that I expect them, often having an aggressive, overextending playstyle with certain loadouts, which gets rewarded exponentially when I get a couple of random crits. Alright, thanks for watching the video until the end. Please tell me your opinion in the comments, like the video if you did, subscribe if you want to be notified for future content, and click the video in the middle for some weird weapon loadout gameplay.